The markets I've identified for top trading opportunities this week, we're starting off with dollar yen at number 1 for a continuation to the upside. You can see here on the weekly time frame the run that we've been on. And we've had a few pullbacks along the way, and maybe coming up into this area where we sold off before, we could be caught with some pullbacks. But I'm just following the trend on the lower time frame for daily trades. If we take a look at every time a weekly low has been taken, let me just mark it on the chart for you. It's provided a nice entry to the upside. That's why I like trading weekly highs and lows. So when you've got your bias, which is bullish on dollar yen, you really want to be looking at these areas like the previous weekly lows or even daily lows for lower time frame trading. But I like to sit out on the weekly. Gives you a little bit more time to think, a little bit more time to get your trade in and manage it quite well. So let's go down into the lower time frames. Obviously Monday's still printing, and I do let Monday unfold before I look to get into the markets. So if we take a look at the H4 time frame, let's put on our indicator, which tells us our previous weekly high, weekly low. This buy zone is just a area for swing longs, that if we came down into this area again, I would be looking for swing longs. But at the moment, I'm only looking for day trades on dollar yen to the upside, because I feel that we may be coming to a top sometime soon. But I do have a target up here around 150.592. So looking for continuation to the upside, what do we really want to see? Well, every time a weekly low has been taken, that provided a great opportunity for a trade to the upside. So I've marked out this previous weekly low. It also has confluence with a previous monthly high over here. So this seems to be a key area. If we come down, take stops, that will give us a fuel for more upside on dollar yen. Let's go down into the hourly and look at every time a daily low has been taken, has it provided a nice opportunity to get long. So let's just do the last few weeks. So even in this pullback, we did have a nice trade to the upside. Obviously, on the daily time frame, these are going to be shorter term trades. You're not going to be holding for swing trades on these daily retracements. You can see during Asia, nice little move to the upside, and then we get a huge move when we come down and sweep this previous weekly low. Let's take a look at the following week, and you can do this as a back test on your own trading. That if you're bullish on an instrument, that we are, these are the areas. Once we sweep a daily low, you can see we get back inside, and it provides us with a nice opportunity to go long. Where would you be targeting? Well, you'd be targeting key highs. You'd be looking at old highs again, levels of liquidity. So we can see here that we've taken out a previous weekly low. Did take out this, but didn't break back inside, didn't give us the opportunity. It was seeking more liquidity down here at the previous weekly low. Get a bullish candle, goes higher. We have a daily low here, taken, and then moves higher. So you get the idea. Last week was quite choppy, but if you still had a bullish bias and you only traded the daily lows, Monday's low, could there be an opportunity to get long here? Yes. If we take a look at Tuesday's low, was there an opportunity to get long here? Yes, albeit in front of news, I wouldn't have took that. And then we have Wednesday's low, break below, back inside, nice move to the upside. So now we're bullish on this. I'm sort of trying to get my point across that these daily highs and lows could be good for day trading. I like to look at the weekly levels on just the higher time frames. Gives me time to react, etc. So looking at dollar yen, I'll let Monday unfold, and then we'll just line out Monday's low. See if we can deviate Monday's low and maybe get back above this previous weekly high, as that would be previous resistance, could turn support on dollar yen. So that's it for dollar yen. I'm bullish on dollar yen. I'm looking for buying opportunities. Overall, my previous weekly low would be the first place I would look for. a nice trading opportunity, but there may be day trading opportunities if you look at the daily lows as well. So just keep the higher time frame charts in mind when you're trading this. The next instrument I want to look at is pound dollar to the downside. Looking at pound on the weekly time frame, quite the bearish run, and we'll be looking to capitalize on any retracements to get involved with the move to the downside. We're just trying to get in line with the market, which is obviously in this leg is very bearish, so you don't want to really be looking too much on this side of the chart because we are on the higher time frames. You can just see how many down weeks we're having. We want a pullback, obviously. Well, let's mark out a few levels that just stand off the chart. You don't really have to go too mad. You can see that this area is perfect for support and resistance. Even going right back, you can see it holding as resistance. Get a deviation, some resistance here, resistance, support, and support. So any pullback into that area, you can start looking to build your trades to the downside. So my bias is bearish on pound. Let's go down into the H4 and look at previous weekly high, which is the whole way up here. I'm not too sure it gets up there, but if it does, that'll be a nice swing trade for me. We do have our level we marked out, so any pullback in here and this previous weekly midpoint, I would look for continuation to the downside. I'm looking for this yearly open to come in on pound, so any pullback would be needed for me to get involved. I'm not going to start selling previous weekly lows because they can snap back in your face, and I feel that this move may be overextended. So I would be waiting on the sidelines for a pullback and a continuation for pound to the downside. Moving on to the third instrument I like the look of is Kiwi to the downside. We're in a bit of a range here on the weekly, but overall the market is quite bearish. Now, if I'm bearish, I want to be looking at previous weekly highs, which we do have some coming into here. I just want to mark out this low, as it is cap and price at the moment on the weekly time frame. So let me just zoom in so you can see the touches that we've had. So we've had resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, and resistance here on the weekly. So that seems to be a key level going forward, and something that I want to keep on my chart as a guide for the lower time frame. So if we go down into the H4, we can see the previous weekly high is looking to come into play quite soon. We'll let Monday unfold as usual, but we do have some highs here at resistance, 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 and resistance. I will look for selling opportunities if we deviate this previous weekly high, get back below, and then this is where I pull the trigger, and I'm just looking for a target zone down here. Possibly current yearly lows for continuation, but I would be happy with just these previous weekly lows. So you're just playing the range basically. We could also add some structure if you like, which would be this low, just as a guide really, that if we come up you can see that price has broke structure to the downside, has got back below this resistance, which is a previous weekly high, and could be the trigger for shorts. So looking at euro out on the weekly time frame, we can see we've had quite the number of down weeks. Every time it took out a weekly high, it gave us a nice opportunity to get into a trade. We haven't really took any weekly highs at the moment, so really daily highs and daily lows probably what you'd be looking to trade there. We have taken out a significant low, which kind of puts me on alert a bit, but what I mean by that is I like trading swing highs and swing lows. So you can see every time a swing level has been taken out, we sort of get a, so this is a bullish market, takes out a swing high, pull back, takes out a swing high, pull back. So we could take out a swing low and pull back, but at the moment my bias is bearish on the daily, and I will be looking for selling opportunities, but I just want to be wary of where we are on the weekly as well. So let's go down into the H4. I do have some target zones here that I've posted into the members area. They get the target zones and overall swing trade levels that I'm looking at. Day trading though, let's put on our indicator once again. That will give us our previous weekly highs and weekly lows. You can see we're at previous weekly lows at the moment, which is support on the lower time frames. I do not want to be selling straight into support. I would rather sell on pullbacks. So you can see here, pullback, into a place where we sold off before, so we need to pull back into a place where we sold off before. So a few areas to note which has my eye. We have this previous monthly low and this previous weekly high, acting as support here, resistance, 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 and resistance. So if we can pull back into that area this week, that would set up a day trading opportunity for me, just on a weekly time frame. These would become my targets, so previous weekly low, and then I'd hold, maybe see if we can get our overall target. We have current yearly lows down here as well, which may come into play. So those are the top FX markets that I like the look of. I'm really going with the dollar strength plays. Need pullbacks to get in because these moves seem overextended to me, and I will wait on the sidelines for those. So let's jump into crypto. Let's start off with a blank chart on Bitcoin. Let's put in a few levels to note what price has been doing. We can see we've had this pullback structure break to the downside and now a consolidation. Really, we can mark out these highs and lows for structure, just because if we are selling on the lower time frames, you want to know what level of structure you're coming into. Sometimes when you're zoomed into the lower time frames, you really can't see these higher time frame levels. So I am bearish on this instrument. You can see that we took out a previous weekly high and sold off. So I'd be looking for this previous weekly low to go on the lower time frame. So let's just go down into the H4, which provides us with weekly levels, monthly levels. Price, that's just weekly opens here. And we've just took out a previous weekly low. I would wait for a pullback. My overall pullback would be to this sell zone around this previous weekly high. That would be in a perfect world. We don't get that, as you know. So I've marked out, I'll be keeping an eye on this level of structure. That's support and resistance as well. Resistance, resistance, and support. We do have some highs here for the taking. Now if we come into here, the weekly midpoint, say we deviate it or we get some sort of setup, some structure, then we can look into sell. But at the moment, I don't want to sell on an overextended leg to the downside whilst we're taking out a previous weekly low. You can see here, once we take out a previous weekly low, overextended leg, you do get that pullback. Number one setup would be up here. I would go in half position at the weekly midpoint. That would be worth a try in my eyes to the downside. Let's move on and take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum's coming into some structure here that I would prefer if we get a weekly close below, and a retest of some structure, and targeting this yearly open and current yearly lows. So that would be a bigger play for me on the higher time frames. But at the moment on the lower time frames, I did a video on Twitter just going over Ethereum. It's just really looking at the current yearly high, current yearly low, and the midpoint. You can see the midpoint, if we zoom in, acting as resistance, and support over here, and resistance over here. So whilst it's under here, I'll be looking for selling opportunities. If we somehow break back above, say we get a bounce off this trend line, bounce up here, get back above that current yearly midpoint, then I would change my bias on Ethereum and start looking for long opportunities. At the moment, everything is bearish in my eyes, and for day trading purposes, I'll be looking for selling opportunities. If we go down into the H4, you can see we've taken out this previous weekly low. I do not want to sell at this previous weekly low, especially with that higher time frame structure as well. So similar to Bitcoin, previous weekly high, current yearly midpoint would be a nice area for me to look for selling opportunities if we come up here this week. Also keeping an eye on the previous weekly midpoint. If we just take that, you can see the structure there for the lower time frames: support, 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 resistance, resistance, resistance. That could be a nice base for a day trade back down to the previous weekly lows. So moving on to Solana, this is a weekly chart. We've had a nice bearish leg. We're in the midst of a small pullback at the moment. We can mark out some structure here on the weekly that will give us a nice gauge of where price is at and what it's coming into. We have support, 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 and current resistance at the moment. You can see that we took out last week's high here, a previous weekly high, sold off quite nicely. This is something that I would be keen on trading. If we were to come up and take out this high, that would provide me with a nice entry, but at the moment price is coming up into an area of resistance on the weekly, and something that I would be keen on trading to the downside. That's where I've got my bias from. We can go down into the lower time frames and take a closer look at structure. So we have that previous weekly high kindly marked out by the indicator. If we were to come up here, overstretch, deviate, anything that shows us signs of weakness at this high, failure to close above it, anything like that, then we'll be looking for selling opportunities in Solana. We also have the current yearly midpoint up in this area, so it's a nice confluence area to start looking for selling opportunities if we do get up there. At the moment, structure is a bit messy, consolidation, so a pullback to take out key highs would be great, and then we can look for a breakdown, a failure of any strength there, and then look for a selling opportunity. We also have this level on the weekly time frame where price is rejected multiple times, so it doesn't mean it can't go above this box and get back below. You can see by the huge wicks on the weekly time frame that is more than possible. If you take a look at, say, this wick, for example, all these wicks, it can go beyond it. But just a general bias is I'm biased to the downside, and I will be looking for those areas like previous weekly highs, current yearly midpoint, to look for selling opportunities in Solana, just with targets of previous weekly lows. That would be ideal for me to get in and out on a weekly time frame. So that's it. I'm just going to wrap up the video. Don't want to do too much. Those are instruments I'm looking at this week. I will do these videos every Monday and put them up on YouTube, and yeah, good free content. If you like it, give the video a like, share it, whatever you need to do. But wishing you a profitable week, and I'll see you again next Monday.